We've long spoken of having gut feelings, and the metaphor may turn out to be true, with the gut and its bacteria regulating much of our system, communicating with the brain via the vagus nerve. We've heard from our reporter Becky Milligan this week about new research into nutrition and gut science, and the fact that our microbiome, our gut bacteria, can influence how we feel, and that includes anxiety, stress, and perhaps even depression. But how can we, and doctors or government bodies, sort the noise around nutrition from the facts, not least if what we're told is scientifically true keeps on changing? I'm joined now by the Labour Life peer, Lord Warner. He was a minister in the Blair government, a health minister, and Dr. Katarina Johnson from the University of Oxford. And she researches the communication between the nervous system and the microorganisms living in our guts. Dr. Katarina Johnson, let's start with you, because it turns out that gut feelings are not merely a metaphor.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we have these, sayings in our language, and now we're really starting to realize that our gut is intrinsically linked to our brain in many ways. Like you said, we have a main nerve that connects our gut directly to our brain called the vagus nerve, and we also think that there might be communication via the immune system, or our gut bacteria can actually produce neurotransmitters that might be able to affect our nervous system that way, and they also make a lot of chemicals when they break down our food. So, yeah, it's a really kind of exciting area of research. It's really new now that we understand that there's this gut microbiome with trillions of bacteria and lots of different species. And it even stems back, if you look at, like, say, for example, Victorians, they recognize this link between the gut and the brain, and also that it's two-way. So not only can our gut bacteria affect our brain, but also kind of our emotional state and our stress can in turn feed back and affect the state of our gut.
Lord Warner, when you were in government, how confident did you feel that the science on nutrition was definite enough to issue guidelines to people on what they should or shouldn't eat?
Well, there's two aspects to this. There's the science and what judgments you make about how to communicate some often unpalatable facts to the public. And I think, in a way, we've often got locked into a system where we are reluctant, I think, to bring good scientific evidence in a manageable form to the attention of the public. And I think obesity is a good example of that, where many of the things we know about obesity have been clear for a long time, but we've been reluctant to bring this information in a forceful way to the attention of the public.
And Katarina, your research is a really exciting but relatively new area. How definitive is what you can say about those links, the impact of what we eat on our physical and our mental health?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a tricky question, especially because quite a few studies are also done in animals, especially in the early stages. I mean, there's some convincing evidence. For example, if you take gut bacteria from people who are depressed and you actually colonize the guts of mice with their bacteria, they start showing kind of symptoms both in their behavior and their physiology that are characteristic of depression. And there is some research also looking at probiotics. So these are live bacteria, and whether specific species of bacteria might be able to alleviate depressive-like symptoms. I mean, it's unlikely that it will be able to, solve all like mental health problems, but it may be a promising therapy one day, kind of adjunctive to standard treatments as well. But, there's a lot of unknown still at the moment, but it is kind of a promising area of research.
Lord Warner, in the past years, we've learned a lot about things like how important a role genes play in our health. In the future, do you think we might be making recommendations based on things like that?
Well, we got the 100,000 Genome Project going, which has been going for some time. It's tended to focus very much on physical health, but it's just begun to get into the area in the last couple of years, looking at the genetic influences and the extent of them on mental health. But it's going to be a long haul before I think we get the kind of results from genetics for mental health that we've managed to get for cancer, for example, where we've been able to show that we can actually push the right medicines towards particular people with particular cancers in a much more effective way than in the past. We're a long way away, I think, from that kind of achievement in the area of mental health. But we do know that there is quite a lot of link, not so much with the genetics, but the link between what you eat and mental health. There is a two-way, for a good example of this, I think, is the two-way relationship between obesity and depression, where if you're depressed, you may become obese, and if you're obese, you may become depressed. And there's a conundrum there about what are you going to tackle? What is likely to be the best, most effective public health response to that particular situation? Are you going to try and crack the obesity and hope it has a beneficial effect on the depression, or are you going to go the other way around? And that's a good example about the complex relationship, I think, between physical health and mental health.
Katerina, briefly, can you explain, do you know yet which microbes do what in the gut? Because you mentioned probiotics, but some have single strains, some have multiple strains of bacteria. What should people take?
Yeah, well, I mean, the research is really too new to be able to give any kind of guidance. Most research is concentrated on lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, so people are looking at whether they can affect behavior. But even some strains might have an effect and other strains don't. So it's not even the species, but the strain. But the one thing there's uncontroversial evidence in favor of at the moment is the benefits of fiber. It maintains our gut health and diversity, and it can also promote kind of beneficial anti-inflammatory effects. So in terms of nutrition, that's kind of the key thing to do with the gut microbiome. But yeah, it's exciting over research.
Dr. Katerina Johnson, Lord Warner, thank you.